No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
Pow day.
Dude, let's go.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, how we doing, Bronco Nation? Welcome on into a live edition on a Wednesday of Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com. Our title sponsor, RowPaint.com. We appreciate Andy Rowe and company, all your concrete coatings. We've had that done twice at our house, whether it's the interior, exterior painting. Highly recommend the folks at Rowe Painting. Reach out to me and I can connect you directly with Andy Rowe and RowPaint.com for all your painting needs. It's Wednesday. We're talking defense, and that means we're going down the defensive line again with our man, Michael Callahan. He got plenty of sleep. He's fresh, ready to go after the Post Malone concert last night. But, Mike, appreciate you waking up and doing this morning. How you doing, man?
Yeah, it's a good turnaround going from walking home about 35 minutes away from the Albertson Stadium last night right after the concert because the Ubers were about $80. So good turnaround.
Yeah, luckily we drove, but we parked so far away that it took us 20 minutes to get to our car. We probably should have.
Seriously.
You've probably had some of the. You weren't the big party or whatever, but I'm sure you had some quick turnarounds to the 5 a.m. wake up calls for workouts and things at times.
Oh yeah, I'm well conditioned at this point in my life. This isn't too bad whatsoever compared to what we used to.
7-8 hours of sleep. You're probably this is more than you ever got. Probably
completely refreshed.
Blue Turf saying good morning, BJ and Mike. Tyree says looked like a good turnout. Haven't seen any videos, but I bet it was a blast. Yeah, we hadn't even talked, and I just randomly saw you and your girlfriend, I believe, walking by and had a quick chat with you. But we both were there last night, and I was there with my wife. And I'm not the biggest kind of Jelly Roll or Post Malone fan, just to be completely honest. It's not that I don't like them. They're just like if I was picking 5 concerts to go to, that it probably wouldn't have been first, but. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time. It was kind of the thing to do in Boise last night, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was awesome. My girlfriend and I came into the tickets super last minute. Shout out to the Madry family. Michael Madry's parents had some extra tickets in the last second. We were able to, take them off their hands. So huge thank you to them for that. And it was an outstanding show. We loved it. Like you said, it's probably not up either of our alleys, but ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. So it was pretty sweet.
It's always weird. I know it's been a couple of times. I went to Luke Combs and I went to Garth Brooks, but it is when you walk out there and you just see all those people all over the blue, and you don't see the blue.
Oh, yeah.
It's still all the work that goes into that, and covering the field with the the whatever the plastic protection cover is, and then all the seats, and just seeing all the people out there. I mean, and how big the stage is. I mean, it's like I said, it's not the first time I've seen this, but it is still quite the scene when that thing gets full like that with people all over the field.
Yeah, there was probably, no exaggeration, over 50,000 people there, I would assume. I mean, it looked freaking.
I don't think it was quite that high. I think they were low to mid 40s, but certainly more than a football game, definitely.
My girlfriend and I were having an argument about it after the concert about how many. She thought it was closer to 60, and I was like, I think that might be excessive, but it felt like 50.
It's crazy, though. I mean, every seat was full down there on the floor. The rest of it was full. I mean, Post Malone or Jelly Roll did make one comment about he almost didn't recognize the place because he couldn't see the blue field or whatever. But they both came out wearing Boise State hats. You know, me and Jay had talked about yesterday. You know, there's some rumors that Post Malone is moving to Boise, I guess, at some point, or Eagle. But and so I thought a couple weeks ago he was just randomly showed up in Emmett or Caldwell, whatever it was, a couple weeks ago at a bar out there, and we all know how he was there for the championship game and then signed the goalpost and all that. I was a little disappointed that he didn't bring any of that up. I thought that whether he said, even at the end, I was waiting at the very end. He got back on stage and kind of, the music had stopped and a lot of people had even left when he was doing kind of his final curtain call. And he, gave kind of a final heartfelt thank you to everybody. And I was thinking maybe that's where he was going to say it or something. But he did come out wearing a Bronco hat for like half the first song and then rip that off. But I mean, I was a little disappointed that there was a little more, hey, it was here in December, had a great time, whatever, what a game, or let's go, Bron. I don't know. I thought the only one we got was the Jelly Roll, like I said, half mention about the blue turf, but I was surprised that there was nothing from Post Malone, to be honest.
Yeah. And, I said it last night, but I kind of give him a little bit of slack considering the fact that he put down at minimum 12 beers on stage, throwing about 20 cigarettes on top of that. So yeah. I don't know if that was at the top of his mind when he was performing, but I was a little surprised by that too. The other part I was surprised about was you saw all these clips of Jelly Roll bringing out. He brought out Eminem in Detroit. He just brought out Kevin James in Ohio 2 nights ago. So I thought somebody might be coming out. I didn't know if he was going to bring out like a Boise State football person or if he was going to bring out a local artist.
Yeah, he played basketball with the basketball team yesterday. I guess he got a workout in yesterday during the day. So there was a video out there, and they gave him some like nice shoes and stuff. And then I saw the video that RJ Keene posted when Jelly Roll was kind of making his entrance down the tunnel and then into the back of the stage. A lot of the members of the basketball team got to go with him on the walk out and be out there for that. And so he should have brought all them out there. Or I thought he might say, "Oh, shout out Coach Rice and the guys for letting me hoop today." Like I know they have a script, and it's not a script. It's basically the same thing every concert. I get it, but I would prefer, and I know sometimes when Garth Brooks says it, it's usually like BS, whatever. He says it everywhere, but I mean, I would like a little more personable. Jelly Roll did say when he was flying in last night how beautiful it was. And I mean, he gave a little bit of that, but me personally, I'd like the guy you feel like when you're giving your money to somebody that they're kind of invested in this show and not just here we are in City B on a 20 city tour or whatever. Give a little more personal love to the city and the team that you're with, and they wanted I had a little fedora on. They said it should have shouted me out. But I don't know. I liked it. It was a good concert, solid concert. But maybe that's just a pet peeve of mine. I wish the artists would be a little more like talking about the hometown or the visit or the team or the school they're at, and we thought he might bring out the basket. They gave him a basketball jersey for Post Malone last year at the football game. So I thought maybe that he'd bust that out for his thing. And like I said, Jelly Roll, they gave you like $300, Kobe shoes or whatever. They hooped with you. Like, give them a shout out on the stage. Come on here. Like, and that would have been the ultimate, like in the football stadium, the basketball team getting the shout out, not the football team. But
that would have been great. That would have been
Spencer out. Spencer is out there or something. Get Spencer out there for 10 seconds and I don't know, crush a beer with Post Malone or something. I don't know, but I don't know. It was a great concert, but I kind of thought, kind of like wearing Bronco gear. They did for a song maybe. I think Jelly Roll had a Boise State hat backwards on for a song or two, and then I think Post Malone came out wearing it too, but didn't the whole time. But it was a good concert, beautiful weather. I mean, could not have asked for better weather. And yeah, we were over at, I saw Coach Riddle. We were over at the James beforehand and had a couple libations over there and got to see Coach Riddle and Cam. And I saw Johnny Ball game over there as well. And so, you know, it was a great night. And me and my wife were already sitting there kind of going, all right, what's next? What's the biggest, nothing against Jelly Roll and Post Malone. But when I think, filling a football stadium like that, I think of a little, more of a Luke Combs, Garth Brooks, like more of a bigger national guy. And so I do wonder, as Jeremiah Dickey says, what's next? And you'd like to see a minimum of one of those this summer. And I really think you could do two. I think you could just go back-to-back Saturdays or something, or back-to-back weeks and just keep the seats and all that stuff out there. But I do wonder who they're going to try to go get. It takes only, a certain size, certain big star to fill, 45,000 seats down there. But, I'm curious who they go after and if they can keep this thing going. Because like I said, it's a big success for, we saw those beer prices. Somebody was making money last night.
Seriously.
And you saw the parking situation and all the restaurants and bars around the stadium. Like it's a big boom for downtown and the economy and everything else when they have these. So hopefully they're able to keep it going.
I like that idea, like you were just saying, like having it back-to-back weeks, just because it is such a logistical nightmare for everybody involved, that if you went at different points of the summer, that'd just be pretty strenuous. But, I think like both the stadium and Boise as a whole has shown the capacity to host, the biggest names, around the country. You could bring in, one that's been selling out big 60,000 stadiums is Morgan Wallen, or a Zach Bryan, especially. I think that those two names are definitely two guys that could come in here and have.
Morgan Wallen's the obvious one. It's just, you wonder if you hope the stadium's not too small for Morgan Wallen, but maybe he would do a couple nights or something.
Right. I agree. But I also think that, as the stadium keeps expanding, maybe that's a little bit further down the road, but you can get those names here. I mean, at the end of the day, Luke Combs is on that level, and he came down and he had a great show here too. So It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing down the road. But I think that, over the past 5 years, we've had Garth, we've had Luke, and we've had, now Post, and each concert was a complete sellout and was an awesome environment. I think that, people are going to take notes of that, and people are going to, have some interest in coming to Boise, because, you think about our stadium, technically it's probably seating around, anywhere between 35 to 36,000. But, that crowd last night, I don't know what the official number was, but it felt gigantic for, our stadium size. So we'll see what happens.
Shout out Nate Burke and Cody Gogler and the whole crew over there at Boise State. Jeremiah, obviously, for pulling that off. That was probably a logistical, logistical issues and things there, and they pulled it off. It was a great night, great concert. I don't know how much money. I know it's not a huge, multiple $1 million making whatever, but Boise State does profit off of that sum, so it's a moneymaker for them. And good show. Had fun, and hopefully they can get some. It definitely makes you wonder if they can get, how bigger they can go in terms of the, Tyree wants to see Kenny Chesney come to the Blue. Blake, probably not happening, but Blake would like to see Taylor Swift come to the Blue. George Strait.
I don't know if we can host Taylor Swift. I think that might be a little excessive for our crowd. But Kenny Chesney would crush it here. I saw him last year in Seattle, and he's freaking outstanding live.
Wu-Tang Clan and Run the Jewels are touring. That would be epic, according to Bronco 130. It was a fun time. And AP, I was being facetious. He says, when you think of Boise State, you don't immediately think of basketball. Yeah, I think we're well aware that the blue turf's the first thing you think of in football. It just would have been kind of funny, actually, if Jelly Roll shot out the basketball team, not the football team.
I see Metallica comment in there. That would be. Yeah, if they could get Metallica out here.
Enter Sandman they did at Virginia Tech Stadium. It's pretty cool.
Oh, dude, I was so jealous. I would have killed to have been there to see that live.
Yeah. Well, it was cool again, and looking forward to seeing what. Like I said, this was announced in November, and it happened in June. So we're not. But right now is the time that they're scheduling and talking and trying to get next summer's tours going. So hopefully And then it is what it's going to have to be, probably on a Tuesday, where you're going from Phoenix to Seattle and you get to stop off and on a Tuesday night in kind of a smaller market. But if that's what it needs to be, I think people in Boise would be fine with that. And hopefully they can get some big ones next year and years after. And we'll see what it goes. All right. So our question today is on the pass rush. We have a question in here as well about the Pac-12 and some other stuff that we'll get to as we get to the nuts and bolts portion of this show here. But first, I do want to thank our title sponsor, roepaint.com, roepaint.com. Andy Rowe and Company do a tremendous job as our title sponsor. So all your painting needs, whether it's those concrete coatings, interior, exterior painting, make sure you hit up our title sponsor, and that's Andy Rowe and roepaint.com. TacoBellWorks.com, the SON Management Group, the Nicolason family. We appreciate them for their support of Bronco Nation News. If you're looking for a job, Taco Bell is hiring the Treasure Valley Taco Bell locations. You can just go in and fill out the paperwork right there in the store. And the food's pretty darn good as well. Those cheesy roll-ups, my kids love those. And whether it's the cheesy gordita crunches, the nachos Bel Grande, the Cantina bowls, the Lux Cravings boxes, they got you covered. Visit a Treasure Valley Taco Bell location today. Hey, Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. There's a branch pretty much on every corner, but the easiest, that mobile eBranch online banking right there on your smartphone. You can move money around. You can do all kinds of great stuff right there from your phone. And, I very rarely have to go into an ICCU because you can just do everything right there on your phone, on your laptop, on your computer. So you may think you like your banking experience, but I can promise, make the switch to Idaho Central Credit Union, and you'll like it even more. Rain's family is so happy we made the switch, and you can as well at ICCU.com. Hey, the weather's warming back up. Time to get out to Roaring Springs. And when you do that, you can save $32 on tickets from our friends at Jackson's and Extra Mile. That's right. You just go to Jackson's or Extra Mile, purchase 2 Coca-Cola products, and you get a voucher for $8 off, and you can use that up to 4 times on 4 tickets. That's $32 in savings, and that's from our friends at Jackson's and Extra Mile. Hey, Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. Been around since 1978. They're part of the Boise State home team. You can, whether it's a sauna, a spa, maybe a pool table, dartboard for the game room, they got you covered at the Spa Team. And hey, the Blue and Orange Store, now the official in-venue provider of Boise State merchandise at the arena, at the stadium, all around town. The Blue and Orange Store now has you covered in an official capacity with Boise State, but they've been around since 2006, giving you the best Boise State gear at the best Boise State prices. So whether it's the new coaches' sideline apparel, those polos are out now, whether it's the basketball jerseys you see on the screen, lots of other good stuff. The Blue and Orange Store, you can get more information from them and find a great deal online at theblueandorangestore.com, or just go to the Boise Town Square Mall there, the second floor next to Pro Image, and you can get some great stuff from the Blue and Orange Store. We appreciate Travis Hawks and Company, a great sponsor here at Bronco Nation News. All right, so our topic today, Mike, let's start with the Pac-12. There was a question in here about the Pac-12. I know we're waiting, Mike, to find out about Texas State. I know I joked with you in the parking lot. I actually think I joked with you in the parking lot like the day it got announced or something, and I said, how's it feel? I said, there's a Pac-12 D lineman or something when you were walking by, and then you don't even get to experience it. But somebody was asking if the guys excited for the Pac? Would new venues and new members be interesting for the team? Back when it was announced, and I don't know what conversations like Coach Danielson had with you guys in meetings and stuff. I know for you it was a little different knowing you wouldn't get to technically be part of it. But what is the feeling around this being the last year in the Mountain West here, and then joining the Pac-12, for those inside the building?
Yeah, like you said, like when it first got announced, for me, it was like, all right, well, that's 2 years down the road. I'm going to be long gone by the time that becomes reality. But, we talked about it for a day or two when it first came out, and then we kind of just, got refocused right back into the upcoming season. But, this being the last year in the Mountain West, I know that, the mindset in that locker room is obviously going for the three-peat, end it on a high note. That's obviously the goal every year, but especially this year, being that we were in the Mountain West since 2011. I think that was the year that the transition was made. So that's a good 14-year run in the conference. So it's gonna be the last time playing a lot of these schools. Playing the Air Force. This should be one of the last times that Boise State will face up. We'll go head to head with a triple option school, which is great. But yeah, and looking at the schools that that Boise State's going to have the opportunity to play against on a yearly basis. Looking at the San Diego States, the Oregon States, Washington States, I look at those schools, and I personally loved playing against those kind of schools. And you get the biggest names from the Mountain West transitioning to the Pac-12, joining Oregon State and Washington State. I personally think it's very exciting because you look at all those schools, the schools on the list, and for the most part, to me, there's nothing worse than going on a road game and having, 100 fans there, and it's a bring your own energy game. And, you can do it, you can get up for the occasion, but there's something about playing in front of a sellout crowd on a weekly basis that definitely gets you. It's just what makes college football great. And all these schools going to the Pac-12 have huge community investment in their programs and their schools. They very clearly made athletic department investments within their schools, and are going to continue to make those investments as we transition into, how the House settlement, changes college football in the near and long-term future. Looking at just going to the private equity route that we're looking at going at, there's just a lot of different investments and a lot of changes, but I think that we have the right school mix in the Pac-12, soon to be next year, that's going to be able to propel this thing forward.
Yeah. Now, it came up the other day. Somebody asked about a rivalry. I guess somebody changed the Wikipedia page. I don't know if you saw that, for Boise State, and added Washington State as like one of the rivals, and people were joking about that. You mentioned like going into this new league, like you're not going to like the one that comes to me is like Reno. Like there's no, like this trip to Reno here in late October, maybe the last time for a long time Boise State goes to Reno. I mean, if Nevada stays in the Mountain West, Boise State might pay them to come to Boise, but I'm not sure Boise State is ever scheduling a home and home to go to Nevada anytime soon. This doesn't do much for them, unfortunately. And it's not some shot at Nevada. They just, when you're looking at their strategy, I'm not sure that's a game that makes a lot of sense for them moving forward. So this could literally be the last time for a long time they play Nevada. What about you mentioned not playing Air Force, and I know you joke about the triple option, but going to the academies, a special game with all the cadets there, you have the flyover and things like that, and the parachute jumpers that come down before the game, and that's always a very cool, kind of trip, and so you lose out on that. I know, Laramie brings different challenges with the snow and everything, and that's not necessarily but I mean, there are some long historic rivalries, and I know the Air Force One and maybe Wyoming don't go back quite as far, but in terms of Nevada and some of these other places that are just going away because of this. So that part, that will have another kind of side story to this 2026 season or 2025 season. And I'm sure at media days next month, that'll be a big topic as well, kind of the last Mountain West media days with this group. But for you, just knowing that this team may not go to Nevada after this year, and some of these some of these teams that have been on the schedule pretty much every year while you've been here aren't going to be on the schedule. I know there's exciting times about the new teams, but for the ones that are leaving the schedule as a player, what's kind of the emotional side of that?
Like you were saying, like I love to joke around about the triple option, but I do agree with you. It does suck that they're not going to have the opportunity to go to Colorado Springs and go to the Air Force Academy, because that is a different college football environment. Obviously, super cool. You have the stadium half full with cadets. You always have the flyover before the game. And at the end of the day, those games, it doesn't matter what point of the season it is, you're going into that game with every game you're getting up for. But going into triple option, it's like, life and death. That's the mentality you got to go into that game with. So, I mean, with that kind of a game on the schedule, I think that part will suck, losing that. But, looking at not going to Reno and not going to Wyoming anymore, and not having those rivalries, because at the end of the day, each game you kind of treat similar to that. I do think that the Fresno game has a little bit more juice in terms of a rivalry than others. I mean, personally, I still hate Fresno. I probably will until the day I die. But I think you're going to have other schools come in and have, bigger rivalries. I think that the Washington State rivalry is going to become big. That game this year definitely felt different, obviously, just the way that our crowd was. They had a good turnout out here. I remember that we saw downtown Washington State fans took over Silly Birch, and that definitely rubbed a few people the wrong way. We were pretty fired up about that, just in terms of how many people actually came out for that game. So I think that game in particular has a huge opportunity to become a big rivalry for us. I'm pretty pumped up about the opportunity that we get to play Fresno every year. Wasn't a huge fan of missing them on the schedule, every couple of years. I think I ended up playing them 4 or 5 times in my career. I wish we would have played them more, but it's going to be interesting to see how these rivalries transition as we get into the Pac-12.
Tyree says UNLV had a chance to become a great rivalry.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. The last 2 years, those UNLV games, obviously just on both paper and on film, toughest games of the year. They were really freaking good. I mean, last year they were what, an 11-3 team? I think they ended up being, because they won their bowl game, and 2 of those losses were against us, and those were dog fights. And I think that they're doing a great job at UNLV. I think that team is a great team coming into this year in the conference, just from what I've been following with their recruiting and what Dan Mullen's doing over there. So I am bummed about not being able to keep playing UNLV as they continue to get better. But we'll see if we can keep them on the schedule. I hope that they can, because UNLV is a great.
That'd be one.
UNLV games are great.
Yeah, getting to go to Vegas, that might make one that might make a little sense. Robbie says, unpopular opinion, I miss playing Air Force because the feel of those games is different, competitive, but no animosity between the players or fans. Teams. And they've done some renovations. I'm actually looking forward to getting down there this year. They have done some renovations to their stadium and that visiting sideline over there. They've taken a lot of those seats out and added some sort of football building, kind of like you guys have, and some suites and things. So I'm not going to, I know everybody cares about the media and our conditions. I'm not going to miss going to Air Force tonight because, first of all, no elevator to get to the press box at Air Force. And when we come down to the field to get down to the field to get the videos of you guys getting off the bus, or get some videos of you guys kind of stretching out, or kind of see, okay, who looks like they're suited up today, who's playing, who's not playing, whatever. When it's time to get back up to the press box, that elevation is real. I'll just say that for out of shape media members trying to walk from the field all the way up to the very top of the stand. I mean, we're basically running decks almost. We have to go up the entire stands to the very top, and then there's like another 3 flights of stairs to get up to the press box. I mean, I'm usually literally sweating and not breathing very well by the time I get to the press box. So that's one on a personal note that as much as I do like go to the academy and the games there, even post-game interviews, go down to the field to do the post-game interviews, and then having to hike back up there. It's that sign they put by the locker room that you could die because of a lack of oxygen.
Real. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? They may not. There's times usually where I'm like, they were onto something there. They really might be.
You're not actually going to die, but they do it to get everyone. When you're walking into the locker room, coming off the bus, they want to try to get the edge that they can. And the biggest difference in those elevation games, thankfully, they run the triple option, so they basically run out the clock in between each play anyways. But when you're standing around in the middle of those plays, I mean, it probably takes anywhere between 10 to 20 seconds to actually catch your breath and get ready for the next play. So you guys, from the sounds of it, were right there with us in that.
Out of shape, different way. But yes, it was that can be quite the. It's funny whenever they go to Wyoming for basketball. Leon Rice one time had a little like one of those. What's that contraption? It's like it dries like a wet carpet or whatever, like one of those big like fans, like one of those big blowers. And he wrote on it that it was an elevation machine at practice one day, and he turned it on, and there was like half the team that actually believed it, at practice, that they were practicing with an elevation machine so that they could be used to the elevation when they go play, Wyoming or whatever. And so I know you guys do the Inferno stuff for the Heat. There's not a whole lot you can do though to get ready to play it. And it's Wyoming. I mean, maybe it's different for me because, like I said, there is an elevator, like whatever. But I always think Air Force is worse than Wyoming personally, even though Wyoming is technically higher. I don't know if there's a difference for you guys, but just the way Air Force, the stadium's kind of built into a hill, and there's just more. I don't know. It just seems a little worse for me.
I agreed with you up until this year, because this was the only year out of my entire career that we went to Wyoming that it wasn't so freaking cold that you forgot about the elevation. So this year the elevation was the worst for some reason at Laramie, because it was only about, it was only like 25 degrees compared to what it we played there in 2020. It was a full-on blizzard. 2022, I think it got up to -17 wind chill. Don't fact check me on that, but I believe it was pretty cold that game. But this year was manageable in terms of the temperature and the elevation. I remember being, they were going huddle, we were going huddle on defense, and we were all kind of getting the call, just freaking gasping for air. And there's really nothing, like you said, you can do the Inferno, and I think the Inferno does a good job of getting guys ready for humidity and heat. Personally, I think that we've had success with it. You can't really do anything. I think the fan is a fun addition. I wonder if they'll, turn to that at some point this year, try to get some fans blown in the indoor to get ready for it. But in my experience, there was nothing really to get you prepared for the elevation. You just kind of had to go do it. And it was never a serious problem, but you'd get back to the sideline and you'd be freaking gassed, to say the least.
I'm not going to miss the San Jose State games very much, though. That's one. They were. It was a nice going to the Bay Area. I mean, that was always nice, and they've actually done some nice renovations on the one side of their stadium. And it's it was. I don't have anything negative against them, but it wasn't like one of those games in one of those matchups where I know they were good there for a couple of years, but it wasn't like something where it's like, oh man, I'm really sad that they don't have as much history. It feels like with some of these other programs, maybe. So I don't know about you, but the San Jose State one's one that I'm okay with going away.
Yeah, it was always tough going out there, even this year. I think when we went out there, I think they broke their attendance record. I think that there was 17,000, so it was a little bit better this last year. There was definitely some crowd noise on their side, but there's no fans on our side. On the opposing sideline, you just have a green hill behind you, so you can hear everything from our sideline. And like I said,
like the College of Idaho or something, when you pull up on the side of the street right there, right up by the outside of the stadium, and you just this is a Division I football state, like this is a Mountain West football state. It's no disrespect to them. It's the facilities they have. It's just they are, and if that's part of this Pac-12 whole thing, is that these schools want to be aligned with people that are investing in their stadium and doing north end zone projects. In Colorado State's case, building a whole brand new stadium, and San Diego State building a whole new stadium. And you see that. And they tried, like I said, they did some stuff on the far sideline, took out a lot of the seats. But in general, it's a really old kind of rundown, rickety stadium that unfortunately is just probably not on a Pac-12 level.
Yes, I completely agree with you. That was kind of what I was hitting at with the just investment overall into these programs. I think that everybody that is going to the Pac-12 has done a really good job of investing in their programs. So, and like I said, the crowds obviously make a difference. We have the best one by far. We've been to different schools. I personally thought that our crowd on 2 separate occasions this year was louder than Autzen. I thought against Wazoo and the Mountain West Championship game were louder. I've never heard a crowd like that in my entire life. So having those kind of crowds, on a week-to-week basis, it can turn into a gauntlet real quick with this new Pac-12 schedule.
Yeah. So is that a big deal though, like for recruits and stuff, and just for the current players? Like the Pac-12 is not what the Pac-12 used to be, but I don't know if they've already been on recruiting visits for these kids for the following year, if they have the Pac-12 logo on their jerseys yet, or I don't know any of that kind of stuff. But I mean, is it a big deal? Not a big deal. It's cool, but not going to be the final thing, or what's kind of the talk in the locker room or amongst the players about this whole thing?
I would imagine that it is a talking point with these recruits, and you've kind of seen it over this past, the past 6 months. We've always done a pretty good job with our high school recruiting, but personally, just from what I've been seeing, I feel like, and I don't know what the rankings are. I'm not a huge recruiting guy. I'm very familiar with the process, and I've watched the tape of some of these kids, and it does feel like our recruiting is starting to take that next step. There's a lot of high 3 to low 4 to mid 4-star guys committing here. And I think that that's going to, as long as they kind of are able to buy in and that those guys can work here, I think that you're going to end up seeing another big step from Boise State and taking another step in the right direction, in the product we put on the field.
Speaking of recruiting, BSU Bill wants us to have somebody on to talk recruiting and strategy. Maybe we can get Kyle Young or somebody from over there from the recruiting department, Brandon Jones, or somebody on to talk recruiting. Maybe we can try to get
I'd
that
love
done.
to see Kyle on here.
What'd you say?
I'm Kyle's number one fan. I love Kyle.
Good dude. Great
he does
dude.
an outstanding job.
Yes. Maybe on a Wednesday when you're on here, maybe we can get him on. That'd be a good to talk about that. Somebody's asking about the student section. What do you make now that it's going to start with this year? But they are actually moving your sideline to the opposite side.
Yep.
So because of the way the North End Zone project works and where your tunnel is going to be and where the new visiting locker rooms are going to be, instead of kind of crossing over, which you do have on some road games, and you got to wait and for the team to go by, and it's just always kind of a pain at halftime. But now they're going to move the other team to the far sideline, and as of now, they're going to keep he says moving the students. They're not going to move the students. As of now, the students will stay on the other side. So you'll have the students right there, which you guys get making a little more friendly atmosphere on the road with the BSU students on the sideline of the opposing player. What do you got? You'll now be on the side with the home side, I guess, with the Stickle Sky Center and all that. What do you make of the switch?
I love it. Absolutely love keeping the student section over there for the opposing bench, because most places you go, that's the case. You don't. It was fun for sure having the students behind us, because you can interact with them. There were times when I was still an undergrad that I'd be able to turn around and see one of my buddies in the front row and be able to mouth something to him that he may or may not pick up. But it's going to make this crowd just that much more hectic for these opposing teams to come in and deal with. And I've already had numerous reviews from people that I know at other schools that come in and play us, and they tell us that this is already one of the hardest. Well, they say it's the hardest place to come in and play, and it's just going to take it to another level. I'm very excited about the change. Yet
EA Sports came out with their 25 hardest venues to play at in the video game this year in 2026 or 2025, 2026, and Albertson Stadium does not make the list of the 25 most intimidating, hardest venues to play in college football. I would love to see Alabama, any SEC school really come into the blue and just, they may win the game, but just to see what they're up against. But I was a little surprised. I know you get in your bubble in Boise, Idaho, and you think it's, whatever. There are a lot of good, tough places to play out there, but given the home record, given the success here, the history here, to not even be in the top 25 on the EA Sports hardest stadiums to play in, I was a little surprised.
Yeah, I'm shocked with how the stadium did last year, that it's not top 25. And I know that it doesn't matter, and we were on it last year, but last year I think it was top 25 last year, but I don't know. Like, we played at Autzen. We played at 2 years ago. We went to UW Stadium. We used to go to BYU. BYU's a pretty hectic crowd in itself for odd reasons. But personally, I haven't played we played in big stadiums. We played at Florida State, my first game ever. Albertson Stadium has always been the loudest stadium to me. So I'm pretty surprised that we didn't crack the list. That's a little interesting to me.
Derek saying got robbed by NC State, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma State, and two of those have artificial noisemakers, and that's it. So
yeah, Oklahoma State has the paddles on the side of their walls, which I'm sure is, from what I've heard from old guys, was super annoying. But
yeah, they were in it last year, then went undefeated at home, 6-6 sellouts, best home winning percentage in the country, and then they take them off the list.
Yeah, that's dumb in my opinion. But I didn't play the game too much anyway, so screw them.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break here and then get to our topic, the pass rush. Michael Callahan was a part of that last year. Now he's going to be watching from afar, but 55 sacks, led the nation in sacks last year. Can the Broncos continue that pace? That's our countdown to camp question that we'll get to momentarily. But first, Lithia Ford of Boise. Their pre-owned pride lets you know that every pre-owned vehicle from Lithia Ford of Boise has been inspected, dissected, and corrected so that you can know that your vehicle from Lithia Ford of Boise is going to have no issues when you drive it off the lot. The Raines family purchased our F-150 from Lithia. We've had zero problems, loving every bit of it. We thank Jim Sturk and Jamie Drake and the whole crew over there at Lithia Ford of Boise. And, they're helping out NIL deals with athletes, with coaches, administrators. They're providing a lot of the vehicles of your favorite folks over there at Boise State. So return the favor for that next new or used car or truck purchase. Make it at Lithia Florida Boise. Another big supporter that backs it up with his pocketbook is Matt Bauscher and Bauscher Real Estate, now part of the Boise State home team. Number 1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley is Matt Bauscher, and Rain's family, found that out firsthand as well. I mean, folks, I'm not just blowing smoke. I bought my vehicle at Lithia. I sold my home, bought my home using Matt Bauscher and Bauscher Real Estate. Like, we use these, supporters and sponsors on a daily basis. And when we're telling you that they're good folks, we're not just saying that to get a paycheck. I mean, I truly mean it. We bought and sold our home with Matt and his team, and saw Kelly Ridley at the concert last night. And it was a tremendous process. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, I know everybody has 5 friends or family members that are realtors in town, but if you need somebody that's going to fight for you and someone that's a big supporter of Boise State athletics in the process, that is Matt Bauscher and Bauscher Real Estate. Hey, Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. If you want to save up to 40% off at the checkout line, download their Skip app, and they got some great savings in there. But find a location near you. Love that CUNA location. They've got locations Treasure Valley, Magic Valley, McCall, surrounding states. They have one even in Laramie, Wyoming there. So Ridley's Family Markets, they're all over the Northwest here. We appreciate them. You can get more information online at shopridleys.com. Transcomservice.com. If you need a job, get into the trucking industry. Transportation Compliance Service can help you every step of the way. Get into the trucking industry, and whether that's DOT, overweight, all the permits and things you need to get out there towing that first load in no time. They're a local company helping out folks all over the world. Get more information at transcomservice.com. Hey, speakpipe.com/BNN. Speakpipe.com/BNN. Signature Roofing is the sponsor, covering our community for more than 2 decades, online at mysignatureroofing.com. But if you want to leave us a voicemail, something you like, something you didn't like, any thoughts you have, if you want to go on air or not go on air, let us know. But you can leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. And again, Signature Roofing, whether it's a re-roof or repair, an estimate, an inspection, all your roofing needs. They've been around for more than 2 decades, and they're just a great company. They're sponsoring the RJ Keene Show, which is going to get going here in the next few weeks, online at mysignatureroofing.com. All right. 55 sacks last year, Michael Callahan. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I talked about it with Jay Tuss yesterday. Our question yesterday was, how do they replace Tubner, Robinson, and Oladipo in that trio? And part of what's so hard about replacing that trio is what they brought to the table in their versatility, and in some cases the pass rush. I think was it Oladipo or Robinson, I forget, that led the nation in sacks as a safety. And I mean, you're talking about guys that are just very versatile players that can do different things, and that allowed you guys to do some of the exotic blitzes and things you did because of some of the guys you had. So those guys are now gone. You also lose, some other guys that had huge sack numbers, like an Ahmed Hassanin type. And, Andrew Simpson was big at rushing the quarterback at times as well. And so just before we kind of dive into some of the numbers, I know you are pretty, confident that it can continue, but just your take on Eric Chenander and what he's going to try to do with this pass rush here in 2025.
Yeah, and to me, what we were just talking about with the the Oladipos and the Robinsons and the Tubners, I think that might be the most interesting conversation with the pass rush, to see who steps into those blitzing, secondary members coming off. Because you look at Shea Oladipo was around 6 sacks, Rodney was around 5. That Tubner probably had. I think Tubner had 1 or 2. I know he was super juiced up because he had his first career sack against UNLV this year. But, in all seriousness, it's going to be a big thing to see who steps into both that nickel and dime role and is able to be part of our pass rush, because there is times that we're bringing 6. And, like I said a couple weeks ago, sometimes we'll bring 7. And those guys have to be able to fill their roles, because there's a good chance that they're the ones being cut free on those patterns. So it's going to be interesting to see who steps up over the course of camp and who ends up being – on the initial depth chart, seeing who's going to be able to play at both those positions, because I'm sure that both the 1 and 2 is going to be vitally important to this team. Obviously, we saw last year Shea and Rod played a ton at nickel. I'm not sure who was 1 and 2 week 1, but either way, they both were on the field most of the year, and they obviously were super productive for us in the pass rush. So having strong pass rush ability and high football IQ from that nickel and dime position is going to be huge for our pass rush to be able to replicate the numbers we put up last year. In terms of just – sorry.
No, I was going to say the 55 sacks last season, as we said, led the nation. It was the number 1 defensive SP plus rating in the Mountain West. But of those 55 sacks, only 25 of those sacks are back this season in terms of players that had them. 55% of those sacks are gone. And then on the pressures, 166 pressures are gone from last season. That's 59% of the production in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback. Basically 60% of that is gone this season. So a lot of turnover, and they got to make up 60% of their pressures that are gone. And so, as I said, those guys were very versatile and did it great, but they're now gone, and we have to see whether or not it's going to be the same style and just ride with new guys, or if Eric Chinander is going to have to kind of mix up the way he does things.
Right. Yeah. And if we're talking about mixing it up, I could see it just coming down to, more 4 and 5 man stunts rather than going, we were running a ton of hot pressures last year, but we bring 6. It just kind of depends on, Coach Chins does an outstanding job of scheming to his personnel. So whoever we have on the field, the best 11, he's going to do an amazing job of scheming up on a week-to-week basis and being able to attack opposing protections and the quarterback based on who's out on the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops over camp. Like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, seeing if we're going to be a nickel or dime for the majority of the time and being able to build pressures off of that personnel package that's on the field, whether we're using, 2 linebackers in the pass rush game, or if we're using a traditional nickel or a dime coming off and figuring out who's going to be pressuring the quarterback on a pretty consistent basis on third downs. But what I do know is that just experiencing it firsthand, this staff does an unbelievable job at identifying the weaknesses in opposing teams' protections. Even when they make adjustments mid-games, having the tablets on the sideline is a game changer, because we can easily pull something from our pack, that we installed in the middle of camp, a pressure, and be able to install it on the sideline through the tablets, and being able to attack their protections and what they're giving us on a week-to-week basis. So I'm excited to see, personally, just from my experience watching the patterns and being able to see what's working and what's not working in college football. It's going to be exciting to watch from a fan perspective this year, be able to see things develop and be able to identify them on my own. But I know that whoever's in there with the personnel, they're going to do a great job again after the quarterback. I just think that that's just the identity of our defense at this point.
And of those numbers they have to replace, that includes 10 pressures and 1.5 sacks from yours truly, Michael Callahan.
I was getting after it, clearly. Elite pass rusher.
10 pressures, man. That's not bad.
I had no idea I had 10 pressures. That is shocking. I'm going to tell.
You were the one ripping on the Pro Football Focus numbers. Now you love them all of a sudden. Yeah, I don't know. But
yeah, they know exactly what they're talking about. Just don't look at my overall grade and we'll be good.
Well, you can read more about it. Nathan Carroll's article is up and gets into a lot of the numbers and who some of the guys are that could step up. Jake Ripp's a guy that had 7 pressures in limited snaps last year. There's some other guys that could see an increase. You can read that at BroncoNationNews.com. And you want to read Nathan Carroll's article, you can just go to BroncoNationNews.com and get some of the numbers and things on the pass rush and where that could go from here. So I don't want to give away all the details now. We'll make folks go read it in the story there. But Michael, appreciate you as always jumping on, man. Great discussion today. And obviously we're counting down to camp here. We're barely 3.5 weeks, I think. 3 weeks from tomorrow might be Mountain West Media Days. It's already here, and they're going to send Cage Casey and Jaden Virgin Morgan down to Media Days. I saw they announced yesterday with Coach Danielson. So get two linemen down there for Boise State, 2 first-team guys. So looking forward to that. But appreciate you for jumping on as always, and we'll do this again next Wednesday.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Michael Callahan, appreciate him, the best in the business, doing a great job joining us here on Bronco Nation News. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If any news breaks, Pac-12, Texas State, whatever else, we'll have you covered at BroncoNationNews.com. Otherwise, Johnny and I will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great rest of your day, and we appreciate you guys for checking out Bronco Nation News online at BroncoNationNews.com.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RovePaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, The Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.